Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another week and with another incredible evening of action in the one and only iRacing official Toyota GR86 Cup by SIMAGIC, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, and proudly sponsored by none other than SIMAGIC. We're here today then for the continuation of our Strength Fulfilled race series. We have made our way into the second half of the 2026 Season 1 campaign, and for week number 7 of 12, we have made our way back to the US of A. But where exactly to? After the complexities of the Nürburgring and Nordschleife last time out, we've gone for something a lot more simple and straightforward, at least on paper, because we're here at none other than the West Virginian circuit of Summit Point Raceway. One of the free-to-own circuits on the iRacing platform, and a circuit where you definitely start out your racing career in the simulator. Is a circuit which is definitely seen as easy to learn but difficult to master, and with its rather intriguing complication of 1.98 miles of course and a whole variety of corners, most of these corners being sweepers connected together by extended straights of varying lengths. It is a circuit which is definitely going to produce plenty of fun and brilliant racing action from lights out to checker flag, regardless of exactly where you start on the field. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you to this all-new live broadcast on YouTube. Indeed, you can tune in right now on youtube.com and go to Paul Walsh Productions or PWP, and you'll be catching all the racing action week in, week out there as we cover your regular strength-filled race from what is the 2045 Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Chrono Time UTC time slot. Now, as we get ready to go racing, we welcome you all to this broadcast, and feel free to say hi in the YouTube chat if you're not too shy. In the content booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, and I'll bring you all your racing action as it unfolds. Speaking of our schedule, well, as always, we return to our 15-minute timed format, with it being a special round last time out at the Nürburgring in Nordschleife, where we had 3 laps on the calendar. But indeed, we return to our 15-minute race format, and what will be approximately 4 minutes' time, we'll be making our way to the grid to see how our drivers all line up for the Week 7 race. So without further ado, let's give you a recap of the story into this round, and then get back to circuit side. And as we see in terms of our schedule firstly, today is none other than the 31st of January, the final day of the first month of 2026. How quickly that has flown by indeed. But as we have made our way to Summit Point, we really open up the second half of the season with some classic racing circuits. Because after this one, we'll be making our way to Austria for the Red Bull Ring's shorter circuit. And then we'll be seeing the Brands Hatch circuit follow up shortly after that. But we then head to Japan for the Okayama International course, into Mexico City for what could be a risk of rain, and into Watkins Glen International, the classic mecca of road racing in the USA, to complete our 2026 Season 1 calendar. But with Summit Point Raceway playing host, as we come into this week of racing, well, how exactly do the Division 1 standing stand after what's been 6 weeks of racing? Well, here we can see with Brent Schneekloff leading the way. However, many of our big names last time out were not on the grid. Alternatively, they suffered quite significantly at the Nordschleife, and Brent Schneekloff not being on the grid in our strength-filled race last time out. But one name who was, the man in second right now, who's trailing by a sizable portion of the best part there of 512 points, it is Josh Ball, who had absolutely terrible luck in Germany, and things didn't quite seem to click together there, but he'll be hoping for things to click together much better today. Nick de Beck as well, unfortunately not able to make it onto the grid last time out due to personal circumstances, and I do believe he hasn't been able to make it onto the grid for this one either, but we do hope to see him back in the near future. He's in third, ahead of Alexander Viravivic, the man who won at the Nordschleife, and in the end was able to charge away after the rest of the field got caught over each other midway through the opening lap, and it's Rafael Bardi who completes the top 5, only behind based on result countback. Walt Overden, Nick Madsen, Nico Weber, also there Michael McQueen and Manuel Gonzalez complete your top 10 of Division 1 in this season up to this point. And as we now make our way back to the present, let's talk about our host circuit. It is of course the Summit Point Raceway layout of the Summit Point Motorsports Park as it's officially known. It does have 2 circuits. There's also the Jefferson Circuit, which is located in Jefferson County. Meanwhile, Summit Point Raceway dedicated to the location of the venue, which is at Summit Point. 1.98 miles in length or 3.18 kilometres, depending on your preference units, but what stays the same is its 10 corners. And as we can see, a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just the brilliant simulator, but also the absolutely fantastic track mats that come with it. This is a circuit absolutely packed full of sweeping bends, and the only change to layout over the course of extensive history has been the introduction of what has been the hairpin complex of turns 5 through to 8, where it used to be a singular hairpin from turn number 5 into a hairpin where turn number 8 now is, and then our drivers will make their way back on themselves. But the hairpin has been expanded in order to open up a little bit more of battling opportunities there, but also to create an even more complex challenge for our drivers to deal with. But as they get set and ready to go, of course, this is a 2-dimensional image, and our drivers will have to deal with significant elevation changes as well over the course of a lap. But in terms of our rules before we go racing, because we're not allowed to go racing without them, this is a fixed setup series with setups provided to our drivers ahead of each and every session of racing. And so the grid will be set it via a closed qualifying session, which is currently coming to a close. And when we do see the race start, it will commence via a rolling start as it's a tradition of Toyota GR86 Cup Racing. And drivers shall be disqualified from the race should they accumulate 17 or more instant points. We've yet to see that happen, and hopefully we won't see it all the way through this season. But as we make our way back to the circuit then, well, how are they all getting on? Well, we've got a couple of drivers still to complete their final laps, as they do have just under 2 minutes left on the clock. And in terms of strength of field for this week's race, it is 2,796 or 2.8k. There, as you can see in the top left corner of your screen, rounded to the nearest 100. So one of our lower strength of fields for the purposes of this season. But to be fair, when you do see this split 19 times in order for drivers to get on the grid, this is an incredibly popular combination. And do keep in mind, it's a free circuit and also a free car on the service, and that always does generate absolutely huge grids for everyone to go racing. But of course, who you are seeing here are your top 20 drivers who've made the way today. Indeed, we have some highly decorated drivers here, many of whom you may be familiar with. And well, Josh Ball being one of those names we're familiar with, the man who hopes to have some better luck in the number 5. I had the pleasure of catching up with him after the racing at the North Drive last time out, and he's saying he's absolutely gutted and he is looking to land a big result one day in the Strength of Field broadcast. And well, Josh, hopefully it'll be that way today. We're not allowed to play favourites, of course, but we do want to see this man have a little bit better luck as he makes his way down the back stretch here in towards turn number 10. Now, we are waiting for one driver or two still to complete their final flying laps out there. Otherwise, everyone else has put their flying laps together. But in terms of plenty of new faces we have on the grid today, including Gabriel Balog, as he makes his way on through there in the number 11. We also do have Victor Corva, who you saw a little bit earlier on in the number 9. And we've also got Tony Perrick, who makes his way on around right now in the number 20. He's your lowest rated driver out of all the drivers here. But to be fair, that doesn't normally dictate the fact he's going to have a difficult day. But do keep in mind, door number are assigned based on what is essentially your I rating compared to your peers. With the number 1 driver, and currently your provisional pole sitter of Leo Mueller, he is currently the highest rated driver here with an I rating of 4,500. I mean, well, your lowest rated driver here, none other than Tony Perrick, who is door number 20, so there are 20 drivers. Well, he's all the way down there as a result. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to make our way to the grid and see how they all line up for a one and only race here at the Summit Point Raceway. And as they make the way onto the grid, this hour 20 drivers will begin the day. Starting on pole position then, taking his first pole position for the Strength of Field broadcasted races, it's none other than Leo Mueller. The German driver will be joined on that front row of the grid, separated by only 43 thousandths by Kobe Ull, the home hero there, and looking to do well in West Virginia. Then starting behind them, it's going to be none other than Gabriel Balog from Hungary, and on the second row of the grid alongside him will be Vit Rigel. Then we have on row at number 3, Dan Bishop from the United Kingdom. He's back once again in the number 2, and he's going to be the company there of none other than Soren Gerrits. And then from the Belgian driver from KGL Sim Racing, it is going to be It's Racing's none other than Jack Holland. He's back once again in the number 8. And then we'll have joining him on the fourth row of the grid, none other than what is Battista Valeschiani, and the Argentinian driver then be followed up by Dustin Bergholz and also there Victor Corva, who rounds off your top 10. Outside that top 10, starting on the 6th row of the grid, best of the rest there, Josh Ball in the number 5. Can he move forward half a second off the overall pole time? But indeed, this circuit very close on lap times for the most part, where your top, what is there, none other than 16 separated by less than 1 second. Ball's going to be joined on the 6th row of the grid there by the Croatian driver of Tony Perrick. And then we do have James Forster starting 13th in the number 6. He was practicing earlier on today. Indeed, I was keeping an eye on some of the races earlier on, and we did see him on the grid. So therefore, I think he's been trying to get himself set for this one. And he's going to be the company and none other than Jake Manalio. Then from the American driver, it's going to be the Canadian of Dudley Stewhaven ahead of Lance Fenderson, who's yet to make his way to the grid. I wonder if there's a technical issue for Fenderson, because he is currently working on the car in the pit lane. Then we do have Carlos de la Cruz, who starts 17th in the Dominican Republic, ahead of Olivia Wilden. And then it will be on your final row of the grid, with the last of the lap time set in qualifying, Max Lupfer, ahead of none other than Ben Malink, who has decided not to set a lap and start from the very back. But all 20 drivers have made the way onto the grid, ladies and gentlemen, which is absolutely great to see. And well, perfect timing as well, because we're about to get the formation lap underway in about 5 to 6 seconds here, and it will be a full formation lap as they all make their way on around. As we do say hello to a few of you in the YouTube chat, including none other than Jay Mando, who is cheering on Josh Ball. Indeed, he is one of the fan favourites out there, understandably, in the fact that we do get a few drivers who are your regulars, and therefore they do build up a reputation, a good one, I should say. Nobody has built up a bad reputation in the Toyota GR86 Cup by SIMAGIC Strength of Field races. And well, once their reputation is earned, it's normally difficult to shrug off, particularly when it's a bad one. But a good one, it's always good to see as they all make the way on through. But as they do, we look a little bit further down the order. This is none other than Oliver Wilden, who We started from towards the back of what will be the penultimate out of the grid, and his game plan right now, alongside many of these drivers, is to try and get as much tyre temperature and brake temperature as possible before we go racing. Now keep in mind in the formation lap, they are expected to hold their positions, and they are normally expected to hold a 2-file rather than what is single file around the circuit and stay within a distance of the car in front. You will every so often see drivers go into single file for a brief moment. And that's to essentially give themselves a little bit of breathing room to be able to warm up the tyres and also warm up the brakes, but they will be expected to return to their formation, as we have had a bit of a slow start for this formation lap for Ben Mehlink, who is a lot further back, but he's catching up at the moment. So I think they've just been caught napping a little bit on the grid, but surely he'll be making his way onward soon and be catching up as well. They do have a window in which they're allowed to catch up, but if they're too far back come the start of the race, regardless of where they start, whether it be in the mid-pack or to the back of the pack, they normally do receive an automated penalty straight away. The race start for procedure is very strict, and it's very formalised here on iRacing. Everyone will be used to it right now. I think some drivers there just being caught out a little bit as we look a bit further up the order. But as we do look to Jack Holland here, well, he started just at the bottom end of the top 10. Plenty of opportunities to go battling for the iRacing driver. Indeed, most of the quarters around here you can go too wide through, albeit it's always going to cost you quite a bit of time as they make the way back of themselves now, coming through 7 into 8. And I'll tell you one thing, in my early days of racing on iRacing, this is one of the very first circuits that I learned to race at, racing in the Mazda MX-5 Cup Car. I was never any good at this circuit, I should point out, but definitely it's a circuit that's synonymous in the mind. But also, you may notice there's very little runoff area. There's plenty of grass surrounding the circuit, but very little in the way of tarmac. And if you go wide, you're normally performing a bit of a rallycross tribute. And at that point, you've got to try and steer the car back on, which now the Toyota GR86, of course, has a new physics engine and a new tyre model for the purposes of this season. It is a much more flexible car. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. It's to Liam Miller to take us green flag racing. He keeps everyone waiting, and he goes. Liam Miller then decides to leave everybody guessing to the start-finish line. And as they make the way down, well, Kobe Orrs immediately come along with him as they make the way down towards turn number 1. Lovely long-distance shot there. 20 cars away. The best part there of what is 4,000 horsepower, roaring its way into a braking zone. It's all a bit bump and shove here as they make the way down, but most drivers okay to that braking zone. Further back there, it does get a little bit crowded as the number 6 of James Foster losing out the start considerably. And Foster, in fact, losing 4 places. He was slowing his line. I think several drivers on the right-hand side of the start-finish straight were a bit slow to launch, but in towards turn number 3 they come, and as they do, well, Hatler Holland right now getting away from Perrick as they come up the hill. Oh, that's gone sideways there, and that's Valeschiani going on around, and they come across the road, and in the end, well, most drivers are able to avoid it, but Valeschiani was the biggest victim of that one, and as a result, we'll get a replay when we can. But down in towards the braking zone here, turns 5 and 6, they roar, and as they do, well, Soren Gerrits right now fighting hard here with Dan Bishop, who's been able to squeeze back ahead of him. He was ahead of Bishop, but Bishop has found his way ahead in towards turn number 5. And behind you can see Bergholz and Holland now queuing up as well as the fighting starts to branch out a little bit. By the time you do get to turn 5, it starts to go single file for a brief moment, and then you get a feel of who you're battling with for the early stage of the race. But at the front of the field, Liam Miller might have tried to deceive All and also Balog with regards to his race start being so late in the day, but they knew exactly what was coming as they all make the way out of turn number 10. Well, that's 1 lap down. We've got plenty more to come. So Liam Miller, who leads ahead of Colby All, followed by Gabriel Balog. That's your top 3. Then in 4th place, it's Rogel ahead of Dan Bishop. Then we have Soren Gerrits in at 6th, ahead of Dustin Bergholz, Jack Holland, Tony Perrick, and Oliver Wilden. They round off your top 10. But into that braking zone they come, and Gerrits here looking up the inside of Dan Bishop, goes away for the move into the opening corner. Your number 2 driver there given plenty of space in the Vodafone Mobile. He looks to switch back here in towards turn number 3, but tucks back in. Doesn't want to fight too hard. He's worried, I think, about the fact that 4th place man Rigel might be able to break away. But coming in towards now, turn number 3, we can see all line stern for the moment because they all want to slipstream off each other and make sure nobody gets away. But that's going to go a bit wide there. That was the car of Oliver Wilden taking a bit of a trip. He brings himself back on, and Josh Ball will get nice and close to him now as they come down the hill. A bit further back, Max Lutfer, who started down in 19th place. He's caught up to Dudley Stewhaven. He's thinking of opportunity, but hold the phone on that one because, meanwhile, calling it in for a move here is now Dustin Bergholz. So he looks around the outside of Dan Bishop, and Bishop right now, he's going to feel as though he's a bit of a pinata being knocked about here with a number of places that are being taken from him. And in the end, it's brilliant side-by-side racing coming out of 8 to 9, and it will be Bergholz who gets ahead for now. But Bishop in the end swerves to the inside. A little bit of oversteer there with a bit of contact with Jack Holland behind as they make the way in the iRacing drive, looking one way, then the other. Can't quite find it at the moment. Behind Ben Mehlink, meanwhile, looking up the inside here of Carlos De La Cruz, and in the end, the Dominican Republic driver is going to be elbowed out there at turn number 10. We'll be back in the draft as they make the way on towards lap number 3. But down they come. Fastest lap of race go to Gabriel Balog, who is in that third place spot. Almost called him Balrog there in reference to the Lord of the Rings character. I won't do that, I promise, Gabriel. And as our drivers make their way down into turn 1, well, the leaders might have calmed down, but it hasn't calmed down here as Dustin Burgos goes round. I think there was Adol's Adventure, and Jack Holland's gone round as well. Another one's gone round. They're all going around, as also Tony Parrish has gone round. And there we do see the car of none other than Jake Malanio making his way back onto the road. And well, as he decides to two-wheel his way back on, I think there's been some considerable damage to all these cars. We're going to need to get a replay to understand what exactly has happened, but it has not been a race start they're going to be too pleased about. And well, with all that drama back there, there's meanwhile a little bit of drama further up the road potentially here as Ben Mayling under pressure of Josh Ball. And Mayling, who started in 20th place, it should be pointed out, he's all the way up to 7th place now. He's gaining places left, right and centre. And Peric and Manalio are both in to the pit lane. They've had to tow in due to damage. They have not been able to carry on, unfortunately, due to the turn 1 incident. We'll get a replay of that shortly. But to the front of the field here, and right now your top two still trying to push each other onwards as they make their way out to the final corner this time. And right now Mueller versus all, and all here just happy to stay in the tow. He's not fighting too hard right now in the triple stint machine. Instead, his game plan is to just push the leader along and make sure there is only a three-way fight for the win, if not a two-way fight, because he's trying to break away from Balog, but the problem is Balog is staying comfortably with them in the number 11 at the moment. Well, these three, they do not want to invite Vid Regal to make it a four-way fight in the win, and they want it to be a triple threat rather than a fatal four-way, as the WWE sayings would go. But as they make the way in towards turn number 3, you can see there Soren Gietz are catching up to none other than what is Riggles. They make the way in towards turn number 4. And we'll throw 3 first, but that does insinuate what will be the fact that we could have a 5-way fight for the win here if this carries on. And well, it's definitely going to be an interesting quintet if so, with Dan Bishop just that little bit further back and a bit lonely at the moment in no man's land. And Josh Ball, meanwhile, well, I can tell you one thing, he has fans in the YouTube chat and he also has fans on the road here, because he's got a lot of fans chasing after him, albeit I say that as a little bit of sarcasm in the fact that right now he's a popular man because they all want 7th place off of him. And that's Merling, Weldon, Forster and also Cover there. And also do believe that De La Cruz is trying to get a bit closer towards this as he leads them on round. But as he leads them back on themselves, we make our way back in time to take a look back at what exactly happened on the opening lap to none other than Bautista Valeschiani. So this is when it made its way in towards turn number 3 for the first time. Side by side on the outside. Small tap in the end, and in the end it was a further bit of contact, and that sent him sideways. Car caught up with him there, and I believe that might have been the car of none other than Jake Manalio who got caught up there, and it sent Valeschiani all the way around. Can we take a look at the onboard for Manalio? Here it was. In fact, he's a bit further back here, so he was a spectator to what happened. He wasn't the driver involved in this, but as he watched it all play out, where you can see cars go sideways, he gets elbowed off himself, and then has to take the rallycross approach there to avoid getting caught up as the car went to the tree line there, and I believe that might have been none other than Lance Fenderson who got sent all the way out. Yes, he did. What exactly happened to Fenderson, I hear you ask? This was the answer to that. This was Fenderson's on board. He was caught right behind the battle in front of him, and in the end they made contact. He went around the outside, lost control of the car. I think he was tapped on the rear, and it sent him to the tree line. He was immediately towed there back to the pit lane. That is an automated response for the iRacing simulator. And then we had this happen to Tony Parrish on lap number 3, and this is where it all went wrong for Parrish in towards the opening corner. It went wrong for several drivers into the braking zone. He went on the outside behind the racing car. That was none other than what was Burgos being turned around, and in the end Jack Holland went round. That turned Parrish around. Oh! Goodness me, the number 4 then coming straight into the side of him. That was Jake Manalio, and that's how they all lost out there. And big drama between all those drivers, and that explains the story at turn number 1. So in the end, it was 2 cars making contact, and it was collateral damage. But meanwhile, whilst we've been looking back in time, we come back to your live racing, and in good time as well, because what we can see here, as these drivers make the way down right now, well, it's none other than Colby All who has taken the lead. Now, understandably, there has been a swap of position, and I think this has been a strategic swap of position, rather than what has been essentially a move for the win, given the fact that they've still got the best part of half this race to go. And well, you are going to see the occasional swap back and forth between drivers here. And well, I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see that a little bit more as we get closer and closer towards the finish line. But as we do see Kobe all here holding it together right now with Mueller and Balog behind, they're all definitely starting to assert on one another here. Everyone's eager as me. Well, oh, that's a big run in towards turn number 3. That's going to be moved by Dudley Stewhaven up the inside of De La Cruz. Now, they had a fight into turn 1 where De La Cruz had got ahead. And I think Stewhaven, they've been a bit aggressive. I think he felt as though he was giving the elbows out from De La Cruz into turn 1. We didn't catch it on camera, but we've definitely seen the aftermath of it, and that might explain why in the end the number 3 driver a bit firm to make that place back. And well, right right now elbows out, no doubt about it. But as we do say hello there to none other than RP Corp, who says hello from NYC, or I believe NYC stands for New York City, if I'm not mistaken. Well, good afternoon to you, good sir. I hope you're having a good day in NYC. As I tries right now racing here in what is none other than West Virginia. And I'll tell you one thing, well, they are not too far away from one of the beating hearts of the motorsporting world in the US of A. But as they make their way down towards turn number 1. And getting ready to go onto that braking zone. We're all Mueller and Balog right together right now, with Regal still 1 second behind. And as they all come down, these three, they are definitely playing this race as smart as they can. And Regal still trying to get closer to them. With Soren Gerrits, meanwhile, he's now fallen back to 2 seconds away from the top 4. So I think Soren Gerrits is pretty much at the mercy at this point of being able to catch up only if the leaders start to fight. That's not necessarily a bad sign, to be fair, given he's the number 13 driver, the 5th place man, who we now focus on. Understandably here, if he finishes 5th in this race, he's going to get a significant amount of I-rated. He will have outperformed himself, and he'll be very proud of that. But a part of me gets the feeling that right now, the little devil on his right-hand shoulder is saying to him, Soren, we can go even faster here. We just need to catch up. We can get a podium. We'll see what he can do. But back to Jack Holland. He's all over the back of Bautista Valeschiani, and the Argentine right now, after his sideways motion at turn number 1, well, of course, turn number 1 was also the place of sideways motion at none other than Holland, and it was at turn 3 where Valeschiani really lost out in the opening lap. But right now, Holland trying to come back at him here as we ride aboard with one of the 2 bruised Toyotas. But the number 15 place right now, definitely not where Holland wants to be. He wants to be much further up the order, because we have seen a lot of pace from him today. He started 7th, and as they make the way back to turn number 10, well, right now Holland here in the draft. He's got some damage, however, that's going to hold him up a little bit. But I think he's going to have to just wait a little bit more as the wipers go on there to clear some debris. But meanwhile, change of lead once again. This is now Leo Mueller getting back into lead ahead of Colby All as we make our way into the final 5 minutes shortly. Now, that looks to be another swap rather than a move for position. And of course, you have to keep in mind that in these cars, because they are very draft dependent at circuits such as this, when you do see these position swaps, don't get too excited at first. Wait until we get to the final 3 or 4 minutes when they're this close, and it'll start to erupt. Or it could erupt now, in fact, because it looks like All here wants to place back, and they are already kicking off the fight. Well, I said don't get excited. We're going to have to get excited now, because they come down through turn number 5, and Gabriel Balog, meanwhile, looks between the 2 of them in the middle, sees the doors not open there, and backs out entirely. But Leo Mueller right now going as defensive as he can, coming down through 6 and into 7. And, well, all wants to make the progress here. And I think it's a difference of opinions between the German and the American driver. Both of them think they've got the pace to lead this race and run away with it. But both of them right now unwilling to yield to the other. That's what we love to see here. They're keeping it firm. They're keeping it fair. And as they get ready to go on to lap number 9, well, who exactly is going to be there right at the front of the very exit? It will really be a drag race to the finish line. And the leader going on to the final lap may not be the winner come the end of it. But here comes Balog looking up the inside. He's at a better run out of turn number 10. He's picked up the double toe initially. He's got the side draft there off of All's car. And now, Mueller trying to give the toe to both cars there to equalise things. And well, here comes Balog up the inside. All's going to try and go all the way round as they touch. And as they make the way through the opening 2 apexes here, it's still too wide as Mueller right now has to use this to open up a little bit of a gap. You can see he's already started to pull a bit of distance here as they begin the fight. But in towards turn number 3, Balog and All still side by side. Albeit All has got the inside. That's the important place to be for turn number 3. Switches from left into right, but the car on the outside, unless they've got a nose head on the exit of turn number 3, they are expected to back out. Typically, they do not have the right to make the move into 4, given the way the road flows, or if they are staying there, they are really at the mercy of the car they're battling with, giving way to them. But coming through turn 5, he backs off immediately as Balog 9. It's not worth risking it, as Vita Eagle right now, he's on the back of this as well. But from them, we've got a long queue of cars here for what is 9th all the way through to 13th, as Josh Ball has been pushed backwards down this group in the last couple of laps. We haven't quite called it on camera. He's battling side by side here with De La Cruz, who's still getting stuck in the number 15, and Ball right now being made to look around the outside in his number 5. You can see in front there, Cova, Wilton, they're all fighting each other here. They're all pushing each other along. They know we're into the final third of this race now, and indeed the places need to be made. They're won or lost at this point, and we still do have 19 runners in this race. We are missing one in the form of Jake Manalio, who unfortunately met his end in the race of what was lap number 3. Here we go then, our pack battling for none other than 9th. Oliver Wilden right at the front of it here ahead of Victor Kova, who was the man who helped trigger off what was the turn at free instant on the opening lap between himself and none other than Bautista Valeschiani. But that's the past, we're in the present, and as they come down right now, Kova not thinking about that anymore. What he's thinking about is, can he make the place? Well, looks to the inside. Stu Haven meanwhile switches to the outside there in the blue machine. Not going to quite come forward for him. As we are further back, Dustin Burkholtz here looking around the outside of Holland. These two got very acquainted with each other at this corner earlier on, and they're still looking at each other. As hold up a second, we've got a car in the grass. That's De La Cruz recovering after being sent off by looks of things. Now, did he send himself off his own volition? position. We will see. As meanwhile, through turn number 5 into 6, that's Gabriel Balog up the inside of Kobiul. And, well, in the end, they've swapped the places around. And Balog right now, 9 is going to be 2 more laps after this one. Given the amount of time they're spending per lap, it's just shy of 1 minute 20. So therefore, with 2 minutes left on the clock, they'll all be aware of the time remaining. They do have screens inside the car, which they can use to be able to take things such as the gaps to machinery in front and behind. But also, essentially, where's the time remaining in the race now? With laps are forecasted. Well, Liam Mueller right now, your leader, he's trying to control this. And, well, after the initial back and forth with Colby Orr, he does seem to now have a bit of certainty in that lead position. But 2 more laps left. And with a new face behind him in the form of Gabriel Balog, will this be a bit of a change? As meanwhile, you can see Balog there immediately pull into the inside. He's following Mueller on down then. So Mueller going to inside, going defensive. We're right on the ball with the full place, man. Door-to-door action at the lead pack. And as they make the way through turn 1, Wentz going to see Balog elbowed out wide there. But he's going to come back on. And as he does, he's still too wide there with Leo Mueller, who backs off intentionally, I think, to make sure he doesn't gain an advantage from the contact. That's sporting of him. As they come in towards turn number 3, and Gabriel Balog takes the inside. He gets ahead. We have a new leader right now. Will he be leading going on to the final lap? We'll have to see as they now make the way down towards turn number 5. There's contact onto the back of Balog's car for Mueller. Mueller right now getting too close for comfort. And as they break the way down in towards the hairpin section, well, it's going to stay as is. Gabriel Balog does take that place for a brief moment, but I don't think it's over by any stretch of the imagination yet, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on to your hats, because this right now is the appetizer for what will be the main course, the final lap to come. And as he roars his way up towards turns 9 and 10, right now Balog knows he has got an unenviable task ahead of him, which is to try and keep Leo Mueller behind. And the number 1 driver here, well, he's got the door number 1 for a reason, and I believe he thinks that he can win this run and be number 1 on the circuit. And I wouldn't blame him for that as he looks up the inside into 10. Not quite close enough there to make a move, but I think that's more research purposes there. What the GR machine driver is doing, what he's thinking is, okay, how much speed do I have at that point? And is it better to get the draft down the straight? Because 30 seconds left on the clock. They go on to 1 more lap. The white flag waves, and here we go, ladies and gentlemen. 2 wide down towards turn 1. Liam Mueller on the right, Balog on the left here. And Gabriel Balog's going to make himself as wide as possible under braking. Don't mistake him for that. As meanwhile, looking up the inside, it's Kobe all goes in here, the home hero. He wants to try and take a win on American soil, but as they come out of turn number 2, well, right now, Mueller goes a little bit deep. Balog goes defensive versus him. He's on the inside to turn 3. Can Kobe go all the way around the outside, or does he look for the switchback instead? He commits to the bit, and as they come through that left-hander, 2 wide, elbows out there, set slightly to the ground, but he's still in track limits. He will stay on. He will not pick up a slowdown, and therefore Leo Mueller does take second place back over Kobe All, but they are still fighting hard. There is battling going on further down, ladies and gentlemen. We'll stay with this lead battle all the way to the end as it's a big queue down to turn number 5, and Balog there puts the car in the middle of the road and stops everyone from making progress as they now make the way through the hairpin. And Mueller and Riggle all so close to the back of our leader right now. Indeed, it is only 8 tenths of a second that separate this quartet. And how is it going to be at the finish line? Well, we've only got 2 more corners to the side here. In fact, now make that 1 as they come out of turn number 9. Balog's got a good run here, but it is 2.5 tenths, and Mueller knows that draft is going to pick up very quickly as they make the way to the final corner. He looks out again. He's keeping everyone guessing as they make the way out to the final turn. It's going to be a drag race to line here. Can Gabriel Balog bring on home for Hungary, or will it be Mueller from Germany, or will it be all? When the end, Balog goes inside. He knows he's done it, and Gabriel Balog takes the win. Ahead of Leo Mueller, who finishes second. Colby All, the home hero, finishes third, ahead of Vita Rigol, who finishes fourth. Then we'll have Soren Giritz finishing in 5th place in the end, just ahead of Dan Bishop, with James Forster coming on home in 7th place. And in the long queue of cars behind, you can see there's Ben Melik in 8th, ahead of Victor Corva, who leads himself. Dan Dudley, Stu Haven, Josh Ball, Batista Valeschiani, Dustin Bergholtz, and Jack Holland across the line, all the way through to 14th place. Carlos De La Cruz takes 15th. Then it's Max Lutvo takes up 16th place. We do have our first formal disqualification of the season for 17 instant points. That's Oliver Wilden in 17th. And then it will be a lap down apiece for Lance Fenderson and also Tony Parrish, with Jake Manalio in the end having to retire for the race due to damage. But my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, what a race. And in the end, well, our final lap definitely delivered, and Gabriel Balog in the end getting the job done when it mattered most on the final 2 laps. He found a way to lead and never let it go. But of course, we were looking at what was going on at the very front of the field. Before we do take a look at the results, we need to take a look back at what was happening further down the field, because there was that big battle for 9th place. And you know what? We've got a replay or 2 of what happened there, and we're going to take a look back, ladies and gentlemen, as we head back in time. So this was the battle then for 9th place, and well, several drivers involved in it, including the number 7 there of Oliver Wilden, and he was the lead car. That was to the grass there for other drivers, couldn't quite see who it was, and in the end that was none other than, I do believe, Carlos de la Cruz was sent wide there, so I think a bit of contact. So this is where it all began, and we left it at this point and then started to focus on our leaders. But going on to what was lap number 12, well, how exactly did it all play out between them? We go forward a little bit in time, and here we go. So this was Victor Kova giving chase as they made the way out of turn number 9 in towards 10, roaring the way on down, and in front of him was still the number 7 of Oliver Wilden. They were fighting hard there, but bumper to bumper racing, and those contacts definitely started to accumulate. And well, coming out of that corner, they went on to their final lap. You could also see a bit further back there was the likes of Battista Valeschiani closing up Josh Ball as well. But how exactly did these two packs really merge together? That's what we need the answer to, and this explains it. So it was Kova all over the back there of number 7 of Oliver Wilden. Into the braking zone they went, and then it was going to be a look round the outside there by none other than Bergholt. Couldn't quite find it. Still, the pack behind weren't quite catching up at that point as we look a little bit further back. So what exactly then happened to bring them even closer together? Well, I think it's going to be the run into turn number 3 that's potentially going to show what exactly happened as they roared the way onwards. Because this was then Kova just having to wait at the moment and wasn't quite able to make any more progress at that time. So whatever happened, it's happened in the second half lap. Has it happened in the hairpin here? So he came down quite aggressively into the braking zone, no way through. A bit of a deep run there, contact to the rear of Wilden's car again. That might be the 4X that was accumulated on the back there, although they can get away with small taps. That sent him slightly sideways. In fact, the contact there, that's when it all started through turn 7, and as they made the way to 8 and 9, elbows out between these two, it suddenly caused them to be too wide. Oh, that got nasty as they came into turn number 9, and Victor Kova was never backing off, and as they then made the way onwards, well, that brought all the field together, and suddenly that's what caused was the long pack of cars with Dustin Bergholtz further back there, also Battista Valeschiani, and we saw right at the back Jack Holland. So that's how they all came together. It was a little bit fierce between them all, and that's how they ended the race, ladies and gentlemen, in a long draft pack, and that explains where Oliver Wilden ended up with the disqualification essentially for what was the contacts. Unfortunate for him, but that's the way, sadly, it's crumbled for him today. But as we make our way back to live circuit side, ladies and gentlemen, there's only one thing we can do now, and that is take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are. So in our Week 7 Strength of Field race of the 2026 Season 1 campaign of the iRacing official Toyota GR86 Cup by SIMAGIC here at Summit Point Raceway, we got to see Gabriel Balog take his maiden win in the Strength of Field Series races by 3.5 tenths over Leo Mueller. Mueller led most of the laps in the race, but unfortunately his battle with Colby All was a distraction in the end from the real threat, and it was the number 11 of Balog who was able to sneak ahead on the penultimate lap and did not yield going into the very last lap all the way through to the finish line. Colby All, meanwhile, he put on a very impressive display, it has to be said. However, he had to settle for third in the end, with his battle with Leo Mueller really taking the focus rather than having to deal with the Hungarian driver who was behind him. And then Vit Riegel finished in 4th place there, and the German driver putting together a very good race. Soren Gerrit finished in 5th there for KGL Sim Racing, as we do say hello to Mr. Bish82 there, who says, that was fun, well done Soren, I couldn't catch you, and I do believe that's going to be Dan Bishop in the YouTube chat, who we say hello to, and Dan Bishop taking that 6th place, not quite able to halve the gap. James Forster finished in 7th there. Solid race from him, ahead of Ben Melink, with the Dutchman then 8 seconds clear, almost ahead of Victor Kova, who led on home the run from 9th all the way to 14th place, that consisted of himself, Dudley Stewhaven, who round off the top 10, with definitely a bit of a firm race today for the Canadian driver. Josh Ball, best of the rest in a length, exactly where he started the race today, so he can't be too upset with today, albeit it hasn't gone quite backwards today, but it hasn't gone forwards either. Battista Valeschiani, who was up the front in the early stages, but unfortunately that contact we saw at turn number 3 upset his momentum. We had Dustin Bergholtz as well, who looked very impressive, having started in 9th, but unfortunately pushed back to 13th for the turn 1 instant on lap number 3. And we also did see Jack Holland there in 14th place for It's Racing. Frustrated day for him. Head of Carlos de la Cruz was then a further 4 seconds back in 15th. It was Max Lupfer in 16th place in the end, and then a lap down to Oliver Wilden, who had that disqualification right at the finish line. Lance Fenderson, who finished in 18th after his trip to the trees on the opening lap at turn number 3. And then Tony Parrish was your last finishing driver of this race, 1 lap down. And sadly, we did have the retirement of Jake Manalio, who in the end caught out in the early race. Well, it didn't quite work out for him today, the American driver. So with that, 20 starters, 19 finishers, and, well, 16 of them on the lead lap, ladies and gentlemen. And that nicely brings our time here at the Summit Point Raceway to a close, at least for our straight for field race. But as we do get ready to wrap up, of course, it's only courtesy that we give a big thank you to our title sponsor for this season, and that is SIMAGIC. And who exactly are SIMAGIC, I hear you ask? Well, let's explain. SIMAGIC was founded in 2018. Founded on the basis of the question, how can we bring the thrill of real racing into everyone's home? SIMAGIC has rapidly evolved as a result, and in terms of its product range, it has evolved to a full racing ecosystem. Because whether you're looking to get your hands on steering wheels, servo bases, pedals, handbrakes or shifters, every component is engineered in-house and built to reflect the company's commitment to innovation, quality, and delivering uncompromising performance when you are racing. So if you want to keep chasing pole positions, podiums, or personal bests, why not check out SIMAGIC's range of products at SIMAGIC.com. And a huge thank you to SIMAGIC for being our title sponsor for this series, and we really do appreciate their involvement in the Toyota GR86 Cup on iRacing. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, as quick as it started here at Summit Point, it has come to a close. There's still plenty of racing to go in the officials if you want to catch more racing action, albeit we won't be doing any more straight for field races there today, because we'll now be looking ahead to our next week. And in week number 8, we make our way all the way to Austria for what will be the Red Bull Ring's National Circuit. And on Saturday, the 7th of February 2026, we ask you and encourage you to cover down and tune in for plenty of racing action at a circuit that only has a limited array of corners, but it has long straights and plenty of sweeping bends, and therefore it's an absolute prime circuit to see our Toyota GR86 drivers be absolutely bumper to bumper over the entirety of 15 minutes racing. And you've seen it here at Summit Point Racing. Imagine what it's going to be like next week when our drivers are even more familiar with the Red Bull Ring circuit. But with that, that's all we've got time for today. You've been tuning in to the iRacing official Toyota GR86 Cup, sponsored by SIMAGIC. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been tuned into a Paul Walsh production. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.